Read from the Telegraph.
Sean.
Babies born in hospital corridors, bed shortages, cruel and neglectful care of 1 million NHS patients.
Why do the British,
Daughter claims father wrongly placed controversial to end-of-life scheme. Doctors told me it was against the rules to save my premature baby. Restrictions on prescription osteoporosis.
The din of British.
In this video, I'm going to seek to deal with the remaining issues raised by Hannity about the NHS in the short clip that I've played in previous videos. So, firstly, babies born in hospital corridors, bed shortages. Although he refers to the Telegraph, he appears to be reading from an article in the Daily Mail. Both are right-wing newspapers, and the same story was reported in the Telegraph, although under a different headline. Although Hannity clearly failed to read the article, or deliberately did not refer to its contents. It sounds appalling, doesn't it? Is the UK a third world country with a fourth-rate medical care system? Well, let's actually have a look at the article itself. The latest figures show a rise on 2007, when almost 3,500 women were forced to give birth outside maternity wards. The figures show that over the last 2 years, 117 babies were born in accident and emergency departments, 4 in minor injury units, and 2 in medical assessment areas. Another 115 babies were born on other hospital wards, while 3 were born in hospital corridors, and another 33 in unspecified parts of the hospital. A total of 399 births took place in parts of the maternity units other than those designated for labour, including postnatal and antenatal and maternity unit receptions. Another 63 were born in ambulances, 608 while in transit to hospital, and 10 births in hospital car parks. Another 2,099 were unplanned home deliveries, out of a total of 7,268 outside maternity wards over the 24-month period. Now, these figures must be considered against a backdrop of a significant increase in the number of births in the UK in the last 2 years. In 2008, 791,000 babies were born, an increase of 33,000 on the previous year. So in the 24-month period covered by the survey, about 1.5 million babies were born. 3 were born in hospital corridors. That represents 0.0002% of all babies born. 2 final points on this issue. I fail to see how the majority of the 4,000 figure quoted in the headline could be attributable to the NHS, as they were unplanned home births. Secondly, there is no evidence to suggest that any of the mothers or babies suffered any harm as a result of not giving birth or being born in a maternity ward. Another point to note is that all this information came as a result of an application under the Freedom of Information Act. I'm aware that there are similar provisions for obtaining certain information in the United States, but not against private companies, such as medical insurance companies. So is there any relevant comparison that can be made between the United Kingdom and the United States in relation to childbirth? Although not exactly on point, one criteria that can be compared is infant mortality rate. The following figures come from the United Nations Population Division and the CIA World Fact Book. The UK appears in 22nd position in the UN survey. The United States, 33rd position. In the CIA survey, the UK appears at position 32, whilst the US appears at 46. The next point raised by Hannity relates to the cruel and neglectful treatment of 1 million NHS patients. Again, Hannity appears to be relying on the headline from a Telegraph report. Again, what he failed to read, or if he did read it, failed to disclose, are the contents of that report. So let me do so. In the last 6 years, the Patients Association claims hundreds of thousands have suffered from poor standards of nursing, often with neglectful, demeaning, painful, and sometimes downright cruel treatment. The charity has published a selection of personal accounts from hundreds of relatives of patients, most of whom died following their care in NHS hospitals. They cite patient surveys which show that the vast majority of patients highly rate the NHS care, but with some 10 million treated a year, even a small percentage means that hundreds of thousands have suffered. These accounts tell the story of the 2% of patients that consistently rate their care as poor in NHS patient surveys. If this was extrapolated to the whole of the NHS from 2002 to 2008, it would equate to over 1 million patients. Very often these are the most vulnerable, elderly and terminally ill patients. It's a sad indictment of the care they receive. You'll note that that is a quote from somebody from the charity. The charity released the dossier to highlight the poor care which a minority of patients in the NHS are subjected to. Chris Beasley, Chief Nursing Officer at the Department of Health, said the care in the cases highlighted by the PA was simply unacceptable. She added, "It is important to note that this is not representative of the picture across the NHS. The NHS treats millions of people every day, and the vast majority of patients experience good, quality, safe and effective care. The Care Quality Commission's recent patient experience survey shows that 93% of patients rate their overall care as good or excellent. It is perhaps for that reason, although private medical insurance is available in the United Kingdom, only about 8% of the residents of the United Kingdom use private medical insurance." And what are the two examples of this cruel treatment? Whilst I don't condone the treatment of the two examples that are given, it hardly seems to correspond with the emotive headline that was used in the article. I also assume that they are using two of the worst examples that they have. Pamela Goddard, a piano teacher from Bletchley in Surrey, was 82 and suffering with cancer, but was left in her own excrement and her condition deteriorated due to her bed sores. I pause there to note that it is not explained how long she was left in her own excrement, nor what the effect of the deterioration in her condition was. Florence Weston, from Sedgley in the West Midlands, died aged 85 and had to remain without food or water for several days as her hip operation was repeatedly cancelled. The next allegation made by Hannity is simply meaningless. Daughter claims father wrongly placed controversial to end-of-life scheme. I have found no source for whatever it is that he's referring to. He goes on, "Doctors told me it was against the rules to save my premature baby." Again, this story is relatively easy to find. It's from one of the only two sources that Hannity apparently uses, this time the Daily Mail. Again, he doesn't go into any detail, but the report reads as follows. "Doctors left a premature baby to die because he was born 2 days too early," his devastated mother claimed yesterday. Sarah Capewell begged them to save her tiny son, who was born just 21 weeks and 5 days into her pregnancy, almost 4 months early. They ignored her pleas and allegedly told her that they were following national guidelines that babies born before 22 weeks should not be given medical treatment. In fact, the medical guidelines for health service hospitals state that babies should not be given intensive care if they are born at less than 23 weeks. The guidance, drawn up by the Nuffield Council, is not compulsory, but advises doctors that medical intervention of very premature children is not in the best interests of the baby and is not standard practice. James Paget Hospital in Norfolk refused to comment on the case, but said that it was not responsible for setting the guidelines relating to premature births. A trust spokesman said, "Like other acute hospitals, we follow national guidelines from the British Association of Perinatal Medicine regarding premature births.
They're laughing at you.